Hello viewers, let's see the glimpse of your own country, wherein I have this title for you, Glimpses of India. This is very wonderful piece because it is a combination of three different descriptions from three different places from India. So let's see the glimpses of India. First of all, the first part is baker from Goa, revolves around the relevance of a baker in the Goa culture. The Goa culture is there, and then we see how relevant is these bakers are in the Goa culture. So here we see that it comes from when the Portuguese ruled over city of Goa. The Portuguese may have left, but the bread makers continue to have an inevitable stature. They still are here and they have a reputation still maintained in the Goa culture. I'm talking about the bread makers. Okay, so let's see what is the baker or the bread maker have to say. What does it have to say when we talk about glimpses of India? Story from the baker's culture. A baker from Goa. In this story, the author recalls his childhood days and their excitement on seeing the baker. Indeed, I'm getting nostalgic myself also here. When we talk about, this author says that, he is getting so much nostalgic when he talks about his own childhood memories, where they used to have the bakers, those pader, they will say, these people who will come door to door and they would be selling the bread. They were enthusiastic to the point that they would run to him as soon as they woke up without even brushing their teeth. This used to happen, and I can serve as a living testimony there. When the baker would come, we would all be not even brush our teeth, just open our eyes and rush to see at the gate what the baker has brought, because his basket would be just like a Pandora's box. It would contain a lot of muffins, lot of biscuits and cookies, and even loaves and breads and rolls and whatnot. It was such a pleasant sight. It's still not, but then it used to be at that time. So the author here is also talking about, without his brushing teeth, children would just be going and just be so excited, enthusiastic to see the baker in Goa. Our elders are often heard reminiscing nostalgically about those good old Portuguese days. The Portuguese and their famous loaves of breads, those eaters of loaves might have vanished, but the makers are still there. This is our elders talk about. The author is talking about his elders. These are the people who talked a lot about Portuguese culture. But Portuguese are no more in India, but they have left the imprints of their culture. That can be seen in Goa in form of the bread makers. We still have amongst us the mixers, the molders, and those bake the loaves. We still have the Portuguese culture, the old time Portuguese culture based, the molder, the mixer, all these equipments, as well as the loaves. Those age-old, time-tested furnaces still exist. The furnaces in which the breads would be made are still there in Goa. The fire in the furnace has not yet been extinguished. The third and a jingle of the traditional baker's bamboo. Bakers would just be keeping a bamboo, and whenever they would go and reach the door, they would just make a sound by making a sound with that bamboo, and they would just make a thudded sound, when they would make that sound when they pushed their bamboo to the ground, and then it would make some sound. That sound indicated that the baker and this pader has arrived. I already told you that pader is the name locally given to these bread makers and these people who would be selling bread from door to door. Maybe the father is not alive, but the son still carries on the family profession. The bakers have this profession carried on as a legacy from one generation to another, and that goes on. These bakers are even today known as pader in Goa. I already told you they are known as pader in Goa. During our childhood in Goa, the baker used to be a friend, companion and guide, and bakers used to be wonderful people. They would interact. Not only they will sell bread, children would talk to them a lot, communicate a thing here and thing there, and they would also give their opinion. So this used to be a wonderful experience when this author is trying to say that they used to talk a lot with the baker. He used to come at least twice a day, once when he set out in the morning on his selling round, and then again when he's returning emptying his huge basket. Oh, I swear I have the scene just running in front of my eyes when I'm teaching this to you, because we remember early in the morning his basket would all be filled with all that stuff which he's selling, and when he would return it would all be empty, and then we would be so inquisitive, so curious to see what is left and what is sold. This used to be our favorite, waiting. We used to wait for it. So similarly, the author says that there would be twice a day this baker would be visiting, the padir would be visiting the town, the lanes there. The jingling thud of his bamboo woke us up from sleep, and we ran to meet and greet. This I already told you, that he would make the thudded sound with his bamboo, and children would rush and run from their sleep, and they would just be so excited and eager to meet the baker. Why was it so? Was it for the love of the loaf? Not at all. The loaves were bought by some Paskin or Bastine, the maidservant of the house. They were not curious about the bread. Bread can anybody bring, he says that we had a lot of servants. These are the names, the servants. Servants can buy us the bread from market, but the author says that we would be so excited to see the dress or the attire or the bamboo and the way these bakers, just shouted, and, all that was so funny and lovely. What we longed for, those bread bangles which we chose carefully. Sometimes it was sweet bread, special make. The baker made his musical entry on the scene with the jhang jhang sound of specially made bamboo stuff. So, he would just be creating that thudded sound, and that sound would be enough capable to raise the curiosity of the children, and children would be coming, and they would just be waiting for their bangle bread. Bangle bread are the special, this is the term used here. This term here we see that the maid servants will be here, and then they would just be selling the sweet bread. They would just be selling the sweet bread, and they would not be happy with those breads, but they were just more happy, they were happier to see the sound and, to listen and all that. So those bangle breads were also there. They would just be, bread bangles rather. This is the term. You can see here, bread bangles are the special rolls of the the bread which looks like a bangle. The shape especially attracted the children, and they were sweet bread. So the children were so happy, and this author is nostalgic about the recollection of his childhood days, especially about the bread and the bakers. Sometimes it was sweet bread of special make. The baker made his special musical entry on the scene with the jang jang sound of a specially made bamboo stuff. One hand supported the basket on his head, and the other banged the bamboo on the ground, and he would just be carrying the basket on his head and just be making the sound like this, So this was a typical scene, a typical sight with music also, because the bamboo is making the sound, and it looks so amazing. The big basket they would carry on their head, and their attire was also in a big kind of a large, huge frock they would wear, and it was so wonderful a scene. This author just reminds himself. He would greet the lady of the house with good morning, and then place his basket on the vertical bamboo, and then he would keep his bamboo like this and keep his basket there. The kids would be pushed aside with a mild rebuke, and loaves would be delivered to the servant, but we would not give up. We would climb a bench or a parapet and peep into the basket somehow, and children would be, as soon as the basket would be kept, children are all looking, I already told you, it would just be a fun for the children to keep peeping into that basket. What is there? Is he bringing this today? Is the roll today there in the basket? Oh, my favorite bread in, that special brands also, I would say, we would say, oh, today is brought that particular brand, those, the companies of the breads. So we would be so amused to see all that. So here, the first thing that this person would do, the baker would do, would just push aside children with mild rebukes, Go away, I'm not here for your fun. But then children would not simply give up. They say that we would climb up at the high places, maybe on the, the boundaries. Parpeta is the boundary, and then they would peep through the altitude. They would walk up, and then, they would just climb up there, and then from there they would just peep into the basket what is there. I can still recall the typical fragrance of those loaves for the elders and the bangles for children. Then we did not care to brush our teeth and wash our mouths properly. In those days, they say that we were so happy and excited that we did not even wash our face or just brush our teeth. We would just be grabbing those breads like that. And why should we? Who would take the trouble of plucking the mango leaf for the toothbrush, and why was it necessary at all? In those days, the author is trying to say that, they would be using the mango tree leaf for as a brush, and then who would trouble go and climb and take the mango tree leaf, and then, it would be so complicated a procedure at that time. So see, imagine such a daily use thing, but then it was not even available there. Why was it necessary at all? The tiger never brushed the teeth. Here we see a lot of humor. Tigers never brushed their teeth. This is what their children would be thinking. Hot tea would wash and clean up everything so nicely after all. And why to brush and, gargle and all that? When we take hot tea, every germs and everything would itself be killed. Marriage gifts are meaningless without sweet bread known as bowl. Just as a party or a feast loses its charm without bread, not enough can be said to show how important a baker can be for a village. Of course, the baker was a very reputed, especially for the children, the baker was a very reputed, person, and children would be so fascinated. He says the marriage gifts were meaningless without the bread. Even in the big functions also, bakers' need was there. They would be making special breads and it would be used. The typical name also given. The lady of the house must prepare sandwiches on the occasion of the daughter's engagement. Cakes and bolinas are a must for Christmas as well for other festival. Thus, the presence of a baker's furnace in the village is absolutely essential. So, in villages, baker's presence was a must, and I already told you, baker was a very important person in the village because of all these reasons, festivals and all these reasons, the baker was very important. The baker or bread seller of those days had a typical peculiar dress known as kabai. They would be wearing the long gown, kabai. It was a single piece of long frock reaching down the knees. In our childhood, we saw bakers wearing a shirt and trousers which were shorter than the full length ones and longer than half pant. So he's remembering his own childhood where the baker would be, wearing typical shirts and pants. But then those days, Goa, the bakers would be just wearing a long kabai, which is a long frock. Even today, anyone who wears a half pant which reaches just below the knee invites the comment that he's dressed like a pader. And now also if somebody wears, typical kind of a long half pant, people will call, are you a pader or a bread seller? The baker usually collected his bills at the end of the month. Monthly accounts used to be recorded on some wall in pencil. This used to be, in those days, people did not keep, especially in villages, people did not keep diaries. They would just maybe keep a piece of chalk or maybe some pencil, and they would write all the account on the wall. It is this day today, purchased 2 packets, this much. This account used to be, this was all fun in those days, I must tell you, dear children. Baking was indeed profitable profession in the old days. The baker and his family never starved. Naturally, they will never starve because the bread is getting made at their place. Why would they starve? Not only that, the baking was, the baker's profession was a very money earning profession also. As I told you that baker's presence was inevitable in villages. So, they would have a lot of good selling. He and his family and his servants always looked happy and prosperous. They would be all very fat and prosperous looking people because of the due reasons mentioned here. Their plump physique, their physique would all be fat, assumingly that they had a lot of eating. That's why. Was an open testimony to this, and this is an open testimony. You can testify through that particular appearance. They would all be, even the servants of the bakers would be very fat, good in physique. plumpy body. Even today, any person with a jackfruit-like physical appearance is easily compared to a baker. So here the plump physique was an open testimony to this. Even today, any person with a jackfruit-like physical appearance is easily compared to a baker. So I told you that baker and their servants and everybody in their house had a good physique, good, roly-poly kind of physique. And here we see that this anybody who now also has a fat appearance or this thing, they would just be compared to baker. So this was a very fascinating piece from Glimpses of India, a village of Goa, the first description of the baker. With this we come to the end of the first piece. Now we'll begin with the second one.
To watch the complete video, download the Upbind educational app from Play Store and App Store.